We're going to start out by cutting our butter into 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces. Next, we're going to combine all of the dry ingredients for the crust into a food processor. Pulse the food processor about 3 to 4 times to mix the dry ingredients. With the food processor running, we're going to add 1 piece of butter at a time until it's well incorporated. So if you don't have a food processor, you can definitely use a blender to mix and combine your ingredients, or you can also do this by hand. So by hand, just go ahead and mix all your dry ingredients and grate the butter into dry ingredients and use the tip of your fingers to gently work and incorporate everything together. So this is what your end results should look like. To protect the pan, we're going to cover it with some foil paper. So I tried just using a single foil paper, but it wasn't really fitting the pan nicely. So we're going to go ahead and create a foil sling. So the first piece, we're going to fold it to the width of the pan, and we're going to push it in so it's flush with the pan. So making sure you also fold in the sides. And the next piece, at least for my foil paper, I didn't have to cut it. It's about the length of the pan. So go ahead and just push it so it sits in flushed in the pan, and go ahead and fold the sides. So this is what your pan should look like once you're done, and go ahead and spray it with some oil spray. Next, we're going to place our dough for the crust into the prepared pan. And using our fingers, we're going to press the dough to cover the entire surface of the pan and making sure that the edges are raised just a little bit. This took some time, so just be patient and slowly work the dough to fit the pan. I also tried very hard to get the surface to be smooth, but this is as smooth as I can get it. And also don't forget to raise the edges a little bit. And this is what my crust looked like when I was done. Next, we're going to pop the dough in the fridge for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees F for the crust. And your oven rack should be sitting about in the middle. This is optional, but I covered my crust with plastic wrap before I placed in the fridge, just to protect anything from falling into it. So I'm just gonna pop the crust into the oven for about 20 minutes or until it's golden brown. All right, so while the crust is in the oven, we're going to start working on the filling. So first thing we need is to get some lemon zest. So I'm going to go ahead and grate my lemons. So about 4 were needed for this recipe. Okay, so the tip for today is if you're trying to squeeze lemons, go ahead and rub it against the counter vigorously to get the most juice out of your lemons. For this recipe, I use my juicer to juice my lemons just because I have it, but you can go ahead and definitely squeeze the lemons by hand. Okay, we're going to start making the filling. We're going to combine our eggs and lightly beat them. Next, we're going to add the remaining ingredients for the fillings, and we're going to mix well with a whisk. So you want to make sure you definitely make your filling while you're processing the oven, because you want to put the filling onto a warm crust. So this is what my filling looks like after I took it out of the oven. I actually let it sit for 25 minutes, and after I take it out of the oven, reduce the heat to 325 degrees F. After I took my crust out of the oven, I went ahead and poured the filling into the crust. So it was very watery, and at this point I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out. So the crust asked for cornstarch, and I wasn't sure if I accidentally used that in the crust instead of the filling, but the crust does call for cornstarch, and the filling doesn't call for any cornstarch. So I let it bake for about 20 minutes. So here I'm just checking to see how firm it was, and I let it sit for another 5 minutes. So you can see here it's not as jiggly as it was before. So I took it out of the oven. So after you take it out of the oven, let it sit for about 30 minutes before removing it from the pan. It still wasn't very firm, so honestly, this is my first time I've ever made a lemon bar, so I wasn't sure how it was supposed to turn out. As you can see, it was still very crumbly, and even after 30 minutes it was still very warm. So I decided to cut into it because everyone couldn't wait to try it out. So I tried to cut into it, but it was still very wet. So I went ahead and did the last step, which is sprinkling powdered sugar on top or over the bar. This is also optional, by the way. So this is the following day, and this is what's left from yesterday. So the bar still wasn't very firm, and I think this is how it's supposed to be, or maybe I could have baked it in a little bit longer. But the crust was very crunchy, very firm and hard, and it reminded me very much of shortbread. I actually enjoyed the crust more than the filling itself. This is just a closer look of what it looked like. I'm still a little bit wet. Here I'm just trying to take some final pictures, final videos for the intro and the outro. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely make this. This was definitely one of my top treats that I've made. I feel like I say that about every video, but this was actually very delicious, and you're not gonna regret trying this. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.